When we're working on a new property or adding a unique space on land to create income, a common solution that pops up is, what about prefabbed homes? But that ultimately ends with the question, why are modular prefab and kit homes so freaking expensive? Here are even some comments from my own channel.
So this really became apparent when I was just in New Zealand, last week actually, at the time of this filming, and looking at investment opportunities and potentially moving there part-time. So that's what I've been doing. If you guys have noticed, I haven't been posting on the channel for about almost 2 months. But while I was there, I fell in love with the country, but I also quickly came to realize how freaking insanely expensive homes were there. The average home price to average household income ratio is actually worse in New Zealand than it is in the US. So it's no wonder in both countries why smaller homes and spaces are very popular. I mean, the biggest tiny home YouTube channel is actually based out of New Zealand. Now, this brings us back full circle to the main question. If they're so much smaller and meant to be affordable, why aren't these prefab and kit homes double to triple or even more price per square foot? Well, that's not entirely accurate. Now, I think these can be a great option when it comes to investing and putting up a unique structure fast, kind of like this shipping container home, some of our tree houses, modular homes, and even A-frames. However, there's a lot of misunderstanding around the world of prefab and kit homes. And if you've been curious about learning more about investing in land and then creating these unique spaces and homes and rentals, you definitely should check out my free land hacker training. You'll get a bunch of downloads for free, my checklist, spreadsheets, guides, and all that good stuff. I'll put a link down in the description, just down below.
Now, it essentially comes down to 3 very common myths and misconceptions. Myth number 1, if the price per square foot is higher, then it's a ripoff. People with little to zero building experience often gravitates towards this argument.
Bah, the price per square foot for that kit home is outrageous. You can build a real home for half that price.
No, you can't. Not at the same level of quality, at least. In the construction of a home, there's a scale of, let's call it, increasing returns. As the home gets larger, within reason, the cost per square foot begins to decline significantly. That's because no matter what size home, within reason, you require certain fixed essentials. A transformer to supply power to the property and a main panel to distribute it, septic system or sewer hookup to deal with, human bodily functions, primary water line hookup or a well and a pump house because you are a human in 2024 and we still need water to survive. A driveway, a parking area, garage, kitchen, at least 1 bathroom. And with construction, you still need to set up for the crews and prep work for things such as foundation, framing, plumbing, electrical, roofing, etc. These are all inevitable sunk costs, whether you build a 200 square foot or 2,000 square foot home. Now, you'd think the cost of building a home was linear, but it's not. It tapers like this. For example, if you're building a 2,000 square foot home and electrical is quoted at, let's say, $20,000, then naturally you'd think building a 200 square foot home, the electrical should be only $2,000 because it's 10% of the space. In actuality, it's gonna be more like $8,000 to $10,000. So even though you decrease the square footage by 90%, the cost only decreased by 50 to 60% for the electrical work. That's true with almost every aspect of the home. Costs in construction are almost never linear. Now, naturally, in a 2,000 square foot home, those sunk investments or sunk costs are spread over a significantly larger footprint, so it appears that the price per square foot is low. But in a 200 square foot home, you still need all those sunk costs, but it's spread over less square footage. That's why smaller homes will always appear more expensive on the surface. It's better to look at overall price, functionality, and purpose of the home. Otherwise, an equal argument would be that everyone should be buying 5,000 square foot tract homes because they have the best price per square foot. Myth number 2, tiny and prefabbed homes must be affordable. No. Prefabbed has been mistaken with manufactured or mobile homes, which were meant to be the fraction of the cost of a traditional home. But these were meant to be built on large assembly lines using materials that barely meet building code and fit on the back of a semi-truck. These were meant to be affordable, not these. Adding fuel to this fire, since the early 2000s, the public was sold on the idea of building living spaces and vans, trucks, and trailers, the infamous tiny home on wheels, were cost-efficient housing solutions. It was pretty common to hear someone building out a space for a few $1,000s because they were passion projects, which I have also done. But when the cottage industry of the tiny home space began to mature, new businesses naturally started opening up their doors to provide customers with materials, plans, kits, or even custom-built spaces already ready to go. That birthed this myth Number 2, the purpose of all smaller homes must be cheaper than a traditional home. They were meant to be a cheaper alternative to a home, but never a cheap option. Spending $50,000 to $100,000 plus for a living space on a trailer frame is not what I call cheap, no matter how you cut it. Myth number 3, because it's more expensive, you're better off just building or buying a traditionally built home. Again, another common misconception echoed by folks who are inexperienced or do not have a construction background. Just like everything else in life, there are levels to the game. Yes, if you go to the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and you find a home built in the 1970s, you can probably buy it for $150,000, $175,000. But you can't then go say,
I want to build like a fully custom kid home, like on the cliff in California overlooking the ocean, and they want to charge me like over $300,000 for it. It's ridiculous.
There are levels of architecture, design, engineer, and perhaps most importantly, quality of labor and materials that has to be factored in. No same person would compare a small 2-seater 2024 Porsche with an old 1995 crusty Suburban and say,
I can't believe the Porsche is more expensive. It's so much smaller. It doesn't make sense.
It's the same thing with these high-end prefabs and kit homes. A lot of prefabs and kit homes are not about affordability. It's more about horsepower. And by horsepower, I mean it's more about form, function, and aesthetics. I mean, look at these things. Some of them are just flat, beautiful pieces of art. And we haven't even talked about the time savings yet. Now, I can pretty much guarantee you won't see trailer parks with homes like these anytime soon. And if there are, it's probably one of my members and students that is creating a landscape hotel or a land hack, and it's not a true mobile home park. And if you do want to go by the price per square foot, you have to use the same quality materials and labor along with the design and engineering. I mean, this has Corten steel siding that looks pretty dang sweet. And you want to compare it to this house with cheap Home Depot vinyl siding? Come on now. Prefabs and kit homes are built to engineering specs, and many use some of the highest quality control and materials in the construction industry. None of these are sponsors, but here are some of my favorite prefab and kit homes that are on the higher end side, and I include the links down below in the description if you want to check it out. Now, prefabs can be great considerations if you're living in an area where labor is difficult to find. Think of like rural areas, mountain towns, that sort of place. Also, you have to factor in time. Some new home builds are taking 12 to 18 months plus. And if you can have a prefab on site and built in like 2, 3, or 4 months, you're saving a year or more just in time and holding costs, taxes, insurance as well. This is even more critical if you're waiting to cash flow it if it's an investment, like a lot of us, what we're doing. And of course, you must factor in functionality and purpose. Are you using this to land hack and generate additional revenues, or is this your personal home getaway? Or is it your full-time home? That's really going to help determine you the best course of action. But I swear, if I hear another inexperienced person on the internet saying that they can get a real home for cheaper than a prefab, I'm gonna lose my mind. Gotta compare apples to apples. Go watch this other video on how one of my members actually used a $90,000 manufactured home to make 6 figures a year by creating a unique rental. Bye.